Zachary Latham and his neighbors, the Durham family, did not get along. They lived opposite each other on the Thornhill Road in Vineland, New Jersey, a town of about 60,000 located 40 miles south of Philadelphia. After being forced to live with his grandparents at the age of 16, the Durhams initially found Zach to be a boisterous but polite young man. But as the years went by, neither he nor the Durhams had a good word to say about one another, and ultimately, the mutual animosity came to a head because of Zach's erratic style of driving. William Durham, along with his wife Catherine, had accused their 18-year-old neighbor of reckless driving on more than one occasion, and what was intended to be a friendly word with the young man quickly soured into a confrontation. When first approached by Mr. and Mrs. Durham, instead of responding amicably to their concerns, Zach responded by pulling out his cell phone. He then spitefully accused Mrs. Durham of being a Karen and swore at an enraged Mr. Durham when he objected to his behavior. Any chance of a peaceful coexistence went straight out of the window when Zach told the couple he'd be posting the video online. And post it he did, with the video going on to be viewed more than 3 million times by TikTok users around the world. What followed was an escalating feud that was later described as a powder keg. The confrontations between Zach and the Durham family were bad enough beforehand, but the publicity Zach had garnered meant that complete strangers were pouring gasoline on an already blazing fire. Hundreds of comments on the TikTok video of the argument between Zach and the Durhams urged him to cut her tires, egg her house, or the ominously vague, go after her. Apparently, a few weeks after the recorded confrontation, Mr. and Miss Durham were minding their own business and getting on with some housework when Zach pulled up next to them in his car. Hey Karen," he is reported to have cried out. "We went viral, Karen. I made you famous." The exposure had a terrible effect on the Durhams' mental health and were even recognized around their New Jersey hometown, much to their chagrin. They sought out an injunction against the video, but were told by the police that they could not sign a complaint against Mr. Latham since the courts were closed because of the coronavirus pandemic. Then, on May 4th of 2020, Mr. and Mrs. Durham returned home from some grocery shopping to discover that Zach Latham had deliberately swerved his pickup truck at their son, who was out in the street riding his bicycle. Mr. Durham was furious. Humiliating him and his wife with online videos was one thing, but to threaten his son's safety was another thing entirely. He marched out of his house, got into his truck, and parked it right behind Zach's own vehicle, blocking him into his own driveway. And on that occasion, it was Zach's wife who was filming the exchange when he walked out of his home to confront Mr. Durham. Both were absolutely livid as they demanded to know what Zach was thinking when he nearly hit their boy. But Zach was in no mood to talk. He told the couple that they had better back up because they were not going to like what's coming out, referring to something he had inside his house. When Mr. Durham got a little too close to Zach, he threw a punch. It missed, but it was enough to have the Durhams' 2 teenage sons stepping in to try to defend their father. It was then that Zach grabbed a stun gun and knife from under the driver's seat of his truck, firing the taser at the 2 boys after swinging at them with the knife. Mr. Durham then grabbed Zach in a misguided attempt to disarm him, who was lithe and fast enough to shake the older man off before slashing his right arm with the knife. With Mr. Durham bleeding profusely from the knife wound, Zach attempted to retreat into his garage, but the red mist had descended on his older neighbor, with Mr. Durham following him into the garage, cursing up a storm and promising to kill him. A courtroom later heard that a brief but violent melee then ensued, one in which Durham was repeatedly shocked with a taser. Zach's young wife begged him to drop the knife, but despite her pleading, Zach plunged the tip of the knife into an area just below Mr. Durham's armpit, a stab wound which punctured his lung and caused it to fill with blood. The 51-year-old correctional officer died that night, with Zach being arrested at his grandparents' home just hours later. During his trial for murder, the prosecution was particularly interested in why Zach's wife had been so quick to pull out her phone to record the confrontation. And throughout hours of questioning and evidence examination, it was determined that Zach and his wife had frequently discussed the idea of recording another viral confrontation with the Durhams, one that would grow their already sizable TikTok following, and the one that could make them some money. In a phrase, the court established that Zach had manufactured the confrontation so he could become TikTok famous. If Latham was in fear for his or Sarah's safety, they both would have retreated inside, called police, and stayed there, the prosecuting attorney stated. They did not because their intent was to lure the Durhams there, attack them, and record it for TikTok. But Zachary's defense attorney painted a very different picture of the night's events, insisting that it was in fact his client that was the victim in the situation, given that the Durhams had ventured onto his property to instigate violence. A recording of his 911 call was played to the court, and this is what they heard. "Yeah, I need the cops out here. There's blood all over the place. I just got assaulted and jumped. I got beat up really bad and I have blood all over me. They came with trucks, came on my property with guns, and then when I fought them off, they drove away." It was a strong argument, but one that paled in comparison to the prosecution's own, which was ironically fueled by Zach's own actions. Since his arrest, Zach wasted no opportunity to grow his TikTok following by talking about the incident and broadcast to his thousands of followers. In the videos, he professes his innocence and insists that the killing was nothing but self-defense, arguing that he was merely a young man defending the home of his grandparents from armed intruders. But there was a distinctly darker side to the videos too, as Zach seemed content to whip up a frenzy of malcontent to direct at the Durhams and their friends. Zach's followers have been alleged to have harassed the Durhams directly, even going so far as to post their address in one video's comment section. Zach posted so frequently that, in the end, a superior court judge approved an order prohibiting him from making public remarks about the case, essentially silencing him before any trial can begin. This is most definitely something that's going to be used against Zach in his upcoming murder trial. The prosecution could well argue that his obsession with social media popularity pushed him to create more and more drama with a family that simply couldn't take his behavior any longer. Zach has documented his harassment of the Durhams. He filmed himself pushing a regularly suburban family to their limits, and when they finally snapped, he had someone ready to film that too. It seems that Zach is a young man with a very troubling upbringing, which included a juvenile criminal history and a penchant for violence. Whether or not you believe that Zach was just defending himself, or that he manufactured the confrontation, he has most certainly used his notoriety to foster a larger TikTok following, and that is something that is going to reflect very badly on him during his trial. Some people will do anything to be famous, but whether or not Zach killed a father of two over something as fickle as fame is something only a jury can now decide. How far would you go to find a missing family member? Is there anything you wouldn't do, or anywhere you wouldn't go in order to recover a loved one? For many of us, the answer will be a resounding no. We'd do anything for the people close to us. And that's exactly how Sarah Turney felt regarding the disappearance of her older sister, Alyssa, in the year 2001. Over the years, Sarah tried almost every means at her disposal in her quest for answers. She started Facebook and Instagram accounts dedicated to spreading awareness of Alyssa's absence. She started a blog called Justice for Alyssa, which kept track of the ongoing investigations. She reached out to multiple media outlets, both regional and national, actually managing to bag an appearance on Dateline NBC. She started her own podcast, appeared as a guest on other people's, and even attended CrimeCon, the weekend-long event for true crime fans as well as those desperate for leads. She left no stone unturned in her search for justice, but unfortunately, she had no luck in the search for her missing sister. Then, in Sarah's desperation, she turned to TikTok. Sarah later said that she started a TikTok account because she wanted to reach a young audience that hadn't heard about Alyssa's case before. She made sure her video posts included as little of her own speculation and theory as possible, making sure to present only the facts to her new audience. However, she did make it clear that one particular line of inquiry had been almost completely neglected. Her father, Michael Turney, who adopted Alyssa after her mother had died, had never been considered a serious suspect. After announcing she created a TikTok page dedicated to spreading awareness about Alyssa, she also included a word or two about the people who'd had less than positive things to say about it. She made very clear that no matter what anyone said about TikTok or any other medium, if it helped her get closer to answers surrounding Alyssa's disappearance, it would all be worth it. It was all part of her doing the right thing and fighting for justice. To her astonishment, Sarah quickly gained over 1 million followers on the video app, with each new video post giving her more and more of an audience. In one particular video, Sarah gives a full and frank account of the day her older sister disappeared. At the time, both girls were living with their father, Michael, since their mother, Barbara, had died of cancer. It was her last day of junior year at Paradise Valley High School in Phoenix, Arizona. Sarah, who was 12 years old at the time, says she found her sister's usually neat, tidy bedroom looking like it had been struck by a bomb. It was a total mess. The only sign of Alyssa was her Nokia cell phone that was left on the dresser, along with a note saying she'd gone to California to try to make it on her own. In another video, she talked about why exactly she had such a strong hunch that her father was to blame. And needless to say, Michael Turney was much more of a dark personality than he liked to let on. Because 7 years after Alyssa first went missing, Phoenix Police Department made a rather worrying discovery at Michael's home whilst on a completely separate investigation: a stash of 26 homemade pipe bombs, 3 incendiary devices, and 2 silencers. After he had such volatile equipment confiscated, Michael allowed himself to be interviewed by ABC News. During the interview, he told journalists that he had been planning to take his own life in order to bring attention to Alyssa's case, but added that the bombs found in his home had actually been planted there by police officers attempting to frame him for his daughter's disappearance, which he denied having anything to do with. They have no proof whatsoever of anything other than rumors, innuendos, and lies. There's only 2 people that can confirm whether I did it, and one is me, and the other is Alyssa. Alyssa's not here, and I'm sitting here, and all I can say until hell freezes over, I didn't do a thing to my daughter. In March of 2010, Michael pleaded guilty to possession of the unregistered pipe bombs and was sentenced to 7 years in prison for owning the explosives and all the silencers. Since April of last year, Sarah has been uploading TikToks about her father's alleged role in Alyssa's disappearance. In one particular video that has accrued over 13 million views, she shared home VHS footage from March 29, 1997, 4 years before Alyssa went missing. In another TikTok, Sarah plays what she claims is a recorded conversation she had with her father a few months after he got out of prison in 2017. The meeting took place at a Starbucks and lasted for over an hour. I felt a lot of different emotions afterwards, Sarah says. I was sad that he still refused to give me any answers. I was hoping that putting those statements on TikTok would prompt the police to finally bring him to a grand jury for questioning. In February of 2019, the case was formally submitted to the county attorney's office requesting homicide charges to be made against Michael, but there was no telling if it would actually be taken seriously or not. It would take another 6 months for the attorney to make a decision. Until then, all anyone could do was wait. Then, to the shock of almost everyone involved in the case, Michael Turney was indicted on charges of murdering his own daughter. Maricopa County Attorney Alistair Adele did not elaborate on what exact evidence led to Mr. Turney's arrest, but did confirm that the indictment was issued by a grand jury. She also credited Sarah Turney and her TikToks with having helped solve the case. Sarah Turney, your perseverance and commitment to finding justice for your sister Alyssa is a testament to the love of a sister, and because of that love, Alyssa's light has never gone out, and she lives on in the stories and photos you've shared with the community, Adele said. This passion you have demonstrated to her during your journey is something that will keep Alyssa's memory alive forever. Sarah had said she will continue to make TikTok videos about Alyssa's case until her killer is brought to justice, and whether or not that killer is her own father remains to be seen. Every evening after work, she scans all of her social media accounts on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, plus her blog to see whether anyone has come forward with new information or tips. Then she sits down with the thousands of documents she's acquired that relate to Alyssa's case. I read through approximately 3,000 pages of case documents that were released to the public by the police and gone through a few hundred hours of home footage, video, and interviews that I've conducted with Alyssa's friends and family, she says. And no, I won't ever stop. Sarah and Alyssa's story is truly inspirational. A search for justice fueled by the love between two sisters. It's a reminder that those close to us will never stop fighting in our corner, even after we're long gone. But it's also a reminder that sometimes it's that those close to us can also be the ones that hurt us the most. In June of 2020, a TikTok user with the username Henry decided that he and a few friends would use TikTok to record themselves going on an adventure. It was an adventure that was based around the popular adventure app Randonautica. Upon opening the app, Randonautica asks you to share your location. Then it will ask you to choose which type of point you would like to generate, be it a void or an anomaly, before fetching coordinates using a random number generator. The user can then open that location in Google Maps to begin their journey. Randonautica adventures were something of a meme at the time, and many other TikTok users were uploading videos of themselves using the app. Given that some journeys had ended with some rather creepy occurrences, Henry decided to give Randonautica a try himself. And so Henry and his two friends spent their afternoon following a series of apparently randomly generated coordinates around their hometown of Seattle. The keyword they entered into Randonautica app was travel, so when the app pointed them in the direction of Alley Avenue Southwest, a street right next to the shoreline of Elliott Bay, they figured the ocean was their final clue. But when they arrived at their destination, they found something disturbingly relevant lying on the rocks near the water. It was a suitcase, and in particular, a travel case. Like many people at the time, Henry and his friends were almost convinced that there was a kind of magic at work with Randonautica. Scores of other randonauts found the endings to their journey to be far too fitting or poetic to be purely random or coincidental, and now Henry was one of them, and he had a potential viral video to go with it. But Henry's video is about to go viral for considerably more sinister reasons, because as they approached the travel case, they began to smell something rotten in the air, and the situation was about to take a decidedly dark turn. At first, Henry and his friends simply laughed off the smell, thinking it either came from one of them or from something washed up further down the beach. They continued to film the bag, with one of them prodding it a little before telling the others how heavy it seemed. One of the people in the video jokes about the contents being rotten groceries, hence the smell. But after another makes a quip about the contents being cash, it's only a matter of time before one of the friends decides to open the case. But as soon as they do, the god-awful stench in the air becomes even more intense, so much so that the friends begin retching and gagging off camera. It was only when they saw the stuffed trash bags inside the case that they began to fear the worst. And after calling 911 and having some cops check out the travel case, the worst fears were confirmed. Inside the travel case were 2 dead bodies, one male, one female. Henry wrote that he broke down the moment he got home after finding the suitcase. He added that his laughter in the video was his way of trying to get through the situation, and said he has since then been unable to sleep. The TikTok video of Henry's morbid discovery earned him more than 15 million views and fueled the speculation that the Randonautica app was somehow cursed. But outside of the paranormal speculation, a very real investigation was launched into how these 2 dead bodies came to end stuffed inside of a travel case. According to a post-mortem examination performed by the King County Medical Office, based on the state of decomposition, 35-year-old Jessica Lewis and her 27-year-old boyfriend Austin Wenner were shot and killed on or around June 9th, just days before they were found. Police then set about questioning those closest to the couple, one of which was their landlord, 62-year-old Michael Dudley, who rented the top floor of his large home to them. On the night of their killing, neighbors reportedly heard a man yelling, "Please don't do this, just let me leave," before gunshots were fired. During his questioning, many of Michael's answers seemed inconsistent or cagey, and was overly nervous during the conversation when he apparently had no reason to be so. It was just enough for the police to focus their suspicions on him, and they quickly obtained a search warrant for the house that both Michael and the murdered couple called home. During their search, law enforcement discovered bullet holes in one of the walls, blood in the couple's bedroom, and a fresh coat of paint on a random part of a banister. When the police confronted him regarding their findings, Michael claimed that he'd heard Jessica had somehow managed to cut herself and denied the bullet holes even being there. He was promptly arrested, then taken to a holding cell to await further questioning. There has been plenty of media speculation as to why exactly Michael Dudley would shoot the young couple, but one source has suggested that the straw that broke the camel's back was their inability to make rent payments. Outside of that, there are plenty of skeletons in Michael's closet that suggest deep-rooted violent proclivities. One media outlet discovered a history of interfamilial relations and carnal abuse when they came across an assault restraining order filed against Michael by his own daughter in June of 2018. Some court documents are said to have read, "My father indecently assaulted me for 9 years, from age 10 until age 18, forcing me to share a bed with him from age 10 while he'd play adult movies on the TV. I don't feel safe in my home or leaving my home to work." His daughter also added that Michael had a very disturbing habit, a ritual in which he would take out his pistol and threaten to use it on her. Gina Yeshka, Jessica's aunt, said she was close with her niece before she died. Gina told the media that her knowledge of Michael Dudley more or less lines up with the allegations made by his daughter. Sometimes he would break their car so they couldn't leave, she said. He put trackers on people's cars. Anytime he ever got in a dispute with anybody, he would tell them to leave but try to lock them in the house. But most horrifying of all, according to Gina, Michael had another disturbing tendency: cruelty towards animals that couldn't protect themselves. He killed the dog in front of them and left the carcass outside for 3 days to scare them, Gina continued. They had nowhere to go. That's why they stayed there. He beat this dog to death with a hammer because it got one of his chickens. He just left it out there for the other dogs to look at and sniff. He's a freaking psycho. She also said the loss of her niece, a mother of 4, and her niece's longtime boyfriend has all but destroyed their families. I don't want them to be remembered in any violent way. I want them to be remembered for their humanity and their kindness. I want to believe they didn't suffer. Michael himself has been taken into custody, but evidence suggests that someone might well go unpunished for their involvement in Jess and Austin's murders. During the post-mortem of their dismembered bodies, the coroner observed that the slices and hacks around their joints were disorganized and appeared to be done in different manners with various devices. The police spokesperson also mentioned that after dismembering his victims, Michael had apparently set about dispersing their bodies in multiple bags throughout various bodies of water, and given the time frame and placement of the bags, it is unlikely that Michael did this alone. This means that there could well be someone just walking around Seattle, a free individual, who helped cut up and dispose of 2 innocent young people, a loving couple who could possibly have been executed over nothing more than a late rent payment. After his arrest, Michael's bail was set to $3 million, with the judge citing his willingness to commit horrific acts of violence. The process of dismemberment would have taken a lot of time and effort, and his willingness to take these extreme steps demonstrates the threat he poses to the community, charging documents read. It appears that Michael is indeed guilty of Jess and Austin's murder, and it's more than likely that he'll go to prison for a very long time. But it was TikTok that made them famous. Millions of people all over the world learned of such barbaric acts because of a simple video messaging app. Big tech companies like Facebook or Twitter might like to think that every so often social media brings a little light into our lives. Yet it seems that every so often, apps like TikTok can bring a little darkness into our lives too. The video-based social media app TikTok seems to be mostly used for musically based creativity in all forms. But recently, the creators of the app have been forced to face the fact that some people are using their creation for considerably more sinister forms of melodious exchange. TikTok is apparently being used to fuel gang violence, with sickening scorecards of murders and stabbings between rivals. Online music videos boast of horrific stabbings and shootings carried out by gang members, and the music is that of a new style of rap known only as drill. Experts in gang culture accuse the social media tech giant, which has 4 million young users in the UK alone, of helping stoke up tensions and luring in youngsters with the bloody scorecards. Thuggish lyrics in slick drill rap videos have been linked to an explosion of murders across the UK's inner cities. Yet TikTok is doing nothing to try and stop the violence. Gang violence among British youths has been widely condemned by police and celebrities alike, and huge amounts of government cash has been poured into trying to curb violence. But the very same drill artists who boast of such horrendous acts of violence are promoted by social media apps, as well as British media institutions such as BBC Radio 1, whose hip-hop DJ actually shares drill music videos on his YouTube channel. Profiles of drill rappers are called an OJ profile or on-job profile, used to describe a successful or active gang member. Many host videos that apparently list attacks carried out by some of the genre's biggest stars. They allege assaults on police, as well as stabbings and shootings that left rival gang members paralyzed, with several claiming that a gang member had killed an op, a word which is slang for opponent. British politicians and anti-gang campaigners alike have begged for an end to social media sites hosting content which could inflame violent tensions among inner-city youth, but the cycle of violence appears to be unstoppable. Dr. Simon Harding of the National Centre for Gang Research at University of West London said that previously, to be part of a gang, it used to be that you would have to actually live on an estate and associate with a group of gang members. Now, with social media, you can hook up with a gang, be recruited by a gang, be groomed by a gang, all virtually without ever living anywhere near the same estate. The sentiment was shared by Jen Locke, founder of Lives Instead of Knives England, who also commented that platforms such as TikTok are glamorizing and glorifying brutal crimes. They're encouraging attacks on rival gangs and stoking up tensions. TikTok caters for a younger audience, and it means they are easily exposed to it. A recent survey found that almost half of British children aged 8 to 15 were regularly using the TikTok app, despite it having an official minimum user age of 13, and many of the violent TikTok profiles have thousands upon thousands of followers. In which case, children in single-digit ages are able to access lists of stabbings, murders, and other violent acts allegedly carried out by gang members. It is unclear who exactly creates or posts the videos, or if any of the profiles are truly affiliated with gangs themselves, but one drill music video has been watched an astonishing 225,000 times. Among them is a profile for rapper CB. His real name is Lakan Akinsoji, and is a young man currently serving a 23-year prison sentence for donning a clown mask and brandishing a sawed-off shotgun at police during a car chase. Last year, 20-year-old Akinsoji and 3 others appeared in drill videos bragging about killing rivals in East London. Other profiles tell of the activities of the N-Gang based in Northolt, northwest London. One of their members, Abdullahi Tarabi, 19, was stabbed to death in front of horrified families after being chased through a West London estate. The rival 1011 gang recorded a rap video with the BBC's DJ Westwood in which they appear to boast that Abdullahi got splashed and died, and I don't feel sorry for his mum. Westwood says he does not condone violence or promote violent music, but many have questioned his commitment to such a stance given his actions. 39-year-old grieving mother, Sharon Kendall, issued a desperate plea to social media giants, begging them to stop fueling this bloodshed. Sharon's son 18-year-old Jason Isaacs was tragically stabbed to death by drill rapper Joel Amadi, who boasted about his violent lifestyle in raps online before he was jailed for more than 20 years. Although Amadi did not use TikTok, they are among social media companies criticized by Sharon for allowing violent criminals to goad rivals online. At a meeting of the Knives Down, Gloves Up campaign, which promotes boxing and martial arts as a way out of crime, Sharon wondered aloud what it would take for big tech companies to actually do something about the violent content on their platforms. How is it okay that mothers have to see videos online of people gloating about their children being murdered? My son's killer is in prison, and he's still getting views for raps that he's posted online. More must be done by social media to stop the sharing of violent videos. Former undercover police officer Neil Woods said gangsters and so-called roadmen were using social media to build reputation and intimidate their rivals. Neil's company, Law Enforcement Action Partnership UK, released a statement saying, "The most successful gangsters are the ones who have the best ability to intimidate." The post on TikTok suggests it has started to rival YouTube as a prime outlet for gangs. Another politician said that the continued failure of social media companies to police themselves highlights why it's important for the government to introduce the long-awaited online harms bill, adding that videos that glorify violence are clearly unacceptable. A TikTok spokeswoman said that keeping people safe on TikTok is a top priority for the company. In line with our community guidelines, we take swift action to remove dangerous or abusive content, and the account in question has been permanently banned from our platform. Dr. Simon Harding of the National Center for Gang Research said that the TikTok videos are a new terrifying dimension of gang violence being played out on a new platform. These boys are no strangers to bigging up their reputation, he said. That's very much what they do on social media platforms, but I have never before seen what appears to amount to an online resume of violence. Normally there are one or two guys in their bedrooms with guns and drugs laid out on the bed, or they are grouped up giving a drill performance. But I have never before seen a formative profile or CV in this way, which is very alarming. Part of the drill genre is that it seems to be designed to provoke, and it's clear that these videos can lead to revenge attacks quite quickly. People can find quite swift and very violent retribution. TikTok seems to be a new platform for these people, but they're using the same violent words and languages. If some of these things are genuine, and you have to be very careful because there is an awful lot of bragging, it raises serious questions. It also seems like a stupid thing to do because bragging about these crimes could make them a target for revenge attacks. It's like the whole gang domain has largely switched online, with one of the world's oldest professions being updated for the digital age. But what's really frightening is some of the most powerful tech companies with some of the most abundant resources in the business world have little to no interest in stemming some of the most horrific acts of violence that young people can perpetrate on one another. They simply sit on top of the world, watching with indifference, as they allow young men to use their platform to gloat over the blood on their hands. And it's not going to stop, not anytime soon. For as long as technology advances, man's lesser angels advance with it. It's a scorching hot summer's day in Tampa, Florida. A high-definition camera records a spray of blood on the side of a car, slowly panning out to reveal the full extent of the gory scene. The car's door sports a small bullet hole, while the front seat's steering wheel and two plastic bottles are splattered in even more blood, this time a yellowy-orange color almost resembling bile. A man in a hazardous materials suit is then seen analyzing a spent bullet casing, recognizing it as a 9mm. It slowly becomes apparent that the video shows the aftermath of a drive-by shooting, one of many that take place in the United States every single day. And after being posted on the usually music-based video app TikTok, the video gained more than 6 million views, and it's not the only morbid medley that garnered such attention. This isn't TikTok anymore. Welcome to Murder Talk. Crime Scene TikTok, Crime Scene Cleanup TikTok, or simply Murder Talk are the nicknames for a collection of videos with over 200 million views that document real-life crime scenes in graphic detail. The videos are mostly filmed at homicide scenes and depict cleaning teams scraping, steaming, and mopping away blood and other gory fluids. Some of the so-called murder talk accounts also showcase the house of hoarders, residences complete with overflowing fridges stuffed with rotting food, as rats and cockroaches and maggots scurry and squirm among the filth. It's a disgustingly disturbing delight for those fascinated with the darker sides of life. Washington-based Harley is 26 years old and grew up watching true crime and hoarder-based reality shows on TV with her mom. But she's now moved on to TikTok, preferring the raw, unfiltered reality that crime scene cleanup videos have to offer. Harley says that while many of the true crime shows were extremely graphic, there was still a lot that wasn't shown. Her morbid curiosity regarding what occurs after death had her to looking up online photos taken from famous crime scenes, and admits to exposing herself to sensitive content at a very young age. She's thankful that the TikTok content she watches now isn't overly fake or sensationalized, and says it's nice to just watch the cleanup happen without a ton of TV-edited drama. Dana, a 17-year-old from Ohio, also made a recent transition to TikTok after following a crime scene cleanup account on Instagram for a couple of years. For her, the draw of the content is a mixture of fascination with the macabre and a genuine desire to learn about the practicalities of the crime scene cleanup profession. It's something I'm drawn to because of the morbidity of it, I guess, she confessed. I've always been really obsessed with death and understanding what happens to us physically when we do pass, so it's interesting to see just what kind of mess gets left behind when people die traumatically. Yet despite Dana's clarity that crime scene cleanup wouldn't be the best paid career, she also refuses to write off working in the industry in the future, saying that it's a job she'd often seriously consider for herself. One of the more popular accounts of the murder talk scene is at Crime Scene Cleaning. The account has more than 19 million views and 2.8 million followers, and it is they who created the drive-by video we previously touched on. Their signature has been to create a kind of crime scene cinematic universe, with their videos starring kooky characters like Decomp Kyle and hoarding technician Fiona, whose speciality is inspecting overstuffed fridges. The At Crime Scene Cleaning account is run by a company named Spalding Decon, a trauma, biohazard, and crime scene cleaning company with a reach and reality that parallels their online success. With merchandise, online training courses, and a chain of cleanup franchises that stretches the length of the United States, it seems TikTok is just another arm of its sprawling business empire. A Nashville-based spokesperson claims that the company started using TikTok to better engage in what they referred to as the culture. While YouTube's video and Instagram posts are still extremely engaging and important, TikTok was another avenue where they could get their message and purpose out to as wide an audience as possible. Many new business opportunities have come through TikTok, with the majority of inquiries coming in the form of younger people insisting that a parent or friend is in need of Spalding Decon services. As well as attracting new business, Spalding Decon has attempted to emphasize the educational aspects of their posts, whether that's about the cleanup industry itself or specific conditions like hoarding. Not only that, but the company's CEO, Laura Spalding, also demonstrates this on TikTok by hosting regular Q&A sessions to answer all manner of fans' questions, some of which range from, "How do I get into this line of work?" to, "Is it true that when the body is decomposing, it blows up?" Social media has made us the household name for emergency cleanup services, Spalding says. We have brought humanity to the difficult job our techs perform every day. Although Spalding has faced controversy for some of the cheerful music used in their videos, it seems that At Crime Scene Cleaning are generally regarded as one of the more respectful murder talk content creators. Its more graphic videos contain trigger warnings. It hosts giveaways for armed forces veterans, and it regularly reassures fans that its clients sign a medical release prior to being recorded. But unfortunately, not all creators have the same kind of ideals. If you start looking for more accounts, I would suggest looking at those run by a specific business, says Washington-based Harley. Otherwise, you end up on compilation accounts that are just in it for shock value. Another player on the murder talk scene is an account known as Bioscene Recovery, run by James Monoth, a certified biohazard recovery supervisor whose daughter encouraged him to upload to TikTok. He confessed to having no idea his profession could be so popular and is astounded that he's managed to clock a cool 43,000 followers. His most viral video depicts a blood-stained silhouette imprinted by a decomposing body and has attracted some negativity, but he says the majority of comments come from people seeking understanding after losing their loved ones in similar situations. When scrolling through Murder Talk, it's clear to see that one creator works a little differently from the others. An account called @DeathScience has almost 500,000 followers and almost 5 million likes, and is part of a network of social media accounts run by a man named Jeremy Siliberto. Unlike the other creators, the crime scenes in his videos are simulated. Jeremy typically creates scripted and designed hyper-realistic content, not unlike the many fictional crime shows that are adored by the public. And he seems to have found a novel approach to educate and have fun, whilst not being overly gruesome nor disrespectful to the topic of death itself. Siliberto's plastic bones and fake crime scenes do nothing to dampen his grim aesthetic or his TikTok popularity. He ends a discussion on the legalities of home burial with, "Let me know in the comments who you would want to bury in your backyard," injecting dark, absurdist humor without being inconsiderate. Despite Siliberto's talking respectfully of the other creators and understands their reasoning, there can be no controversy about his personal motives. Not only does Siliberto aim to educate people about forensics, he also started #GenZForest, a movement that encourages young people to opt for more eco-friendly burial options. He believes that it is vital that we open up the conversation about death, as well as taming our anxieties about it. Dana from Ohio thinks the popularity of Murder Talk speaks to generational changes in attitudes towards death. "I definitely think my generation is more desensitized to things," she explains. "When you go through a national tragedy like one a year, and it's directly affecting your age group, the fear factors start to wear off and it's accepted as normal and expected. Everyone is kind of drawn to death. We seek it out. We ask for gritty details." She says she feels more comfortable watching crime scene cleanups on TikTok than other more algorithmic-friendly content. "I also follow plastic surgery accounts, and those bother me more than the crime scene cleanups do," she says. "I would rather have someone looking at my blood on concrete than my entire semi-naked body with all my flaws pointed out on Instagram." It's objectively disturbing that some young Americans could be more comfortable observing the deaths of other people than showcasing themselves online. And it seems that TikTok, as well as other social media outlets, not only have the capacity to allow us a share in each other's lives, but also in each other's deaths as well. Last year, hype over that TikTok app was at its peak, so I foolishly decided to see what the big deal was. Don't get me wrong, some of the surface stuff was pretty cool. All the little dance routines and lip-sync videos kept me entertained for a while, but I think I went a little too deep down the rabbit hole because I found just about the creepiest trash I'd ever come across. I'm not even sure how I found this guy. I mean, like I said, I was just tapping and scrolling, going further and further down my TikTok rabbit hole, but somehow I ended up watching a video of this guy with glasses and a handlebar mustache saying stuff like, "Good morning, my queen's above 18. So, as you can imagine, right away I'm all like, what in God's name is this mess? I scroll through his TikToks a little before coming across another video from this guy, the King, where he greets people with "Queens above 18. First of all, who says stuff like that? But second, the guy was obsessed with the idea of his queens being above 18. Like, anyone who talks about it that much is definitely a little sus. But then the video goes on showing him asking all of his queens to do something called the King Challenge, which turned out to be nothing more than getting girls to wear a white t-shirt and having them pour water down the front of their shirts. I'm not kidding. That's all the King Challenge involved. It was just the creepy way he tried to sound almost fatherly about it too. Like, I swear to God, at one point, he even said, like, try to make it fun. Make a little game out of it, my queens. Just everything about this guy screamed absolute creep, and I was barely surprised when I saw that he'd replied to a comment asking, why have you been talking to my 16-year-old girlfriend, or something like that. So, as you can tell, TikTok is on thin ice already. I'm already kind of jaded with social media in general, purely for the number of creeps that use it, and that's on top of the fact that social media is super bad for your mental health. Like, I don't want anything on my phone that makes me feel terrible or creeps me out. Then, I'm not kidding, like 5 minutes later, I'm scrolling through some of the less popular dance TikToks when I come across the video that made me go, I'm out. It starts off with this old dude like crouched down, propping his phone against something to record himself. So at first, all you see is this dude's wrinkles. Then as the guy steps away from the phone, you see his bare foot with jeans on. Then there's nothing on his upper half but what I'm guessing was one half of an extra small girl's bathing suit, like the tube top kind. He then starts doing these creepy hand dances while growling completely inaudible words underneath his breath, all in what looked a lot like the basement of a serial killer. All I could think was that his little dance routine might be the last thing I see before he bashes my skull in or something, and this cold shiver just runs right through me. I get that apps like TikTok make people happy and bring people together and all that good stuff. I honestly get that. But to me, social media has always been this glimpse into how petty, immature, and downright frightening human beings can sometimes be. So yeah, TikTok, it's gonna be a no from me, dog. A seriously bizarre and terrifying phenomenon had TikTok users all over the English-speaking world freaking out last month when the app's translation feature began to make some deeply frightening errors. By some bizarre happenstance, a user discovered that if you write a comment with re in it, something rather unexpected occurred. The comment itself could be any variation of those letters, but the presence of R-I or re would cause the translation service to perform a distinctly different function. A young woman with the username Whoa Nelly shared the disturbing news with her fellow TikTokers in early January, and since then, her video has been viewed almost 9 million times. Naturally, many who watched the video decided to try the phenomenon out for themselves with the occasionally horrifying result. This is the scariest thing I've ever seen on TikTok, Nelly told her followers. If you comment re, it says something really cryptic, some really scary stuff. Why is no one talking about this? It's so scary. For those that don't know, it was possible for everyone who watched her video to instantly test out the veracity of her claims in the comments box below her post. Then if they held their thumbs down on the comments, a little window popped up, asking if they wished to have their comments translated. Hundreds wrote out their own variation of the gibberish phrase, then shared the translations, along with their shock and horror at what they said. This is the second most important part, one translation read. The cry for help. It's a dream. Another said, crying? That's a lot of fun. It's alright, it's a cry for help. Suffering. While another user complained that the frightening translation didn't seem random at all, and had apparently been a little too much for her. Pain, tears and pain. All I can do is cry. I had to leave and it hurts, her translation said. And given that she had recently lost a grandparent to cancer, she found the message's relevance to be truly haunting. Most users who worked through the comments section, translating the vast array of comments on their own, were understandably and justifiably creeped out at what they were seeing. The basic translation error was one thing, but getting such elaborately disturbing and sometimes prophetic messages was something else entirely. Some users said their messages verged on being poetic, while others professed their deep fear and confusion. Oh my God, I'm translating people's comments and I'm actually spooked. One user wrote after allegedly translating one message into help, suffering, crying in a nightmare. Another user then added in, does anyone else feel like the owners of TikTok are being held captive? No? Okay. User Woe Nelly went on to share some of the scarier translations in a follow-up video that had many TikTok users glued to their phones in fearful curiosity. "This is the second most important part of the history of the world. It's all right," was one of the worst comments she read, which sounds a little too on the nose considering the wildfires, wars, and worldwide viral panic of the previous year. "Are you joking me? Like all of them are scary, but this one?" Nelly said. "That makes too much sense. I hate it. I hate it so much." While some were fixated on their fears that TikTok had somehow been cursed or that the messages were ominous prophecies, there may actually be a completely rational explanation for the whole thing. Many TikTok users noticed that the app seemed to be translating the re messages to Maori, an Eastern Polynesian language spoken by the Maori people, who are the indigenous peoples of New Zealand. It translates the Maori, Xhosa, or Shona. If you translate enough, it repeats, one person commented, because re all relate to expressions of anger in Maori. "It was a language spoken Maori," someone else commented. "Re refers to expression with anger, wrath, and annoyance, so I'm guessing it says something random pending on what you put." That theory might sound like it makes sense, but how does it account for the wildly different phrases people got back when they translated their re message? We can say it was merely a glitch, and certainly stranger things have happened on the internet, but perhaps there was something else at work with the haunting translations, something deep in the coding, a ghost in the machine, you might say. Maybe we've been talking to computers for so long that they finally decided to talk back. Only what they have to say is far more disturbing than we could have possibly imagined. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/letsreadofficial, and give and receive feedback from the community, and even hear your story featured on the next video. And join a live stream to catch an invite to my Discord. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all these stories in long compilation form and save huge on data. Located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, dead bodies are not poggers.